one of the most respected game development companies of all time, one of the most loyal fan bases that money can't even buy, and one of the biggest betrayals in game development history. This is the story of Diablo Immortal and how it signified a growing shift in the Western markets of gaming to condition gamers to accept more and more pay-to-win mechanics. It also changed Blizzard from a respected game maker into a symbol of corporate greed, a brand that gamers now associate everything wrong with corporate game development. This fall from grace has severely impacted the legacy of one of the most influential game studios that has ever been, and today we're going to recount how we got here and what it means to the industry at large. If you've been out of the loop or just want to walk down memory lane, I've got you covered. If you like content like this and want to hear more, hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. I'm on YouTube as well as Spotify. I'm Retro T, and let's dive right in. In the beginning, there was no Blizzard Entertainment. There was a small startup development studio called Silicon and Synapse. They made a bunch of game ports, a bunch of not-so-hit games, and then sometime after their name change to Blizzard Entertainment, they released Warcraft: Orcs and Humans. This was Blizzard's breakout real-time strategy hit. Now, between 1995 and 2004, Blizzard would go on to release genre-defining classics across real-time strategy and action RPG genres with the massively popular Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo series of games. In 2004, Blizzard would launch World of Warcraft, a game that still dominates the MMORPG player base nearly 20 years later. Blizzard was the top of three distinct gaming genres. Over the next decade, however, the industry in Western gaming was about to go through an identity crisis. Games generally up to this point had always been buy to play, especially outside of the MMO arenas. You would purchase a game and you get to play the whole thing. You buy an expansion and you get all the parts. But Eastern gaming culture had become okay with a more pay-to-win model. A model where you may buy the game or get it for free, but you'll continue to pay for in-game advantages via real money transactions. You may pay money for crates, and those crates have a chance to drop better weapons, and those better weapons can be used to advance further and faster in the game. Western markets had dabbled in this microtransaction space, but overall, Western players had aggressively rejected pay-to-win gaming. The term games as a service was sort of born to try and brand this corporate greed into a user-friendly term, and some studios actually found success and warm receptions from their fan base. Rocket League, for example, began selling skins, but the skins had zero role in the gameplay itself. League of Legends and Riot Gaming are an empire built upon selling beautifully designed skins, again without any gameplay impact whatsoever. But this profit model requires that your game be good, that gameplay alone can pull a solid player base and motivate them to spend money on cosmetics. This will never happen if people do not believe that your game will be around for the long haul. Why would I buy a skin if nobody will be around to see it in 6 months? The first major company to find success in pay-to-win mechanics was, surprise, Electronic Arts. EA launched a feature called Ultimate Team in its FIFA soccer game series during the 2009 iteration. This game mode effectively let you open card packs to unlock players, and those players could be assembled into an ultimate team for competition in online game modes. In 2017, EA began reporting Ultimate Team profits in its SEC filings, showing a revenue of $775 million in 2017, growing to $1.6 billion in 2021. EA declined to disclose the Ultimate Team revenues in 2022 amongst global calls to action against gambling-based pay-to-win mechanics. But sports games aren't the only games to cause controversy in the Western pay-to-win ecosystem. EA revived a much-beloved Star Wars Battlefront series of games and introduced a very similar gambling mechanic for in-game cards. Stephen Kemper estimates that it would take 6 months of playtime or $2,100 to unlock everything in the game. And these are online game mode affecting modifications. EA received a fairly enormous amount of kickback for this, even setting a Guinness World Record for the most downvoted comment in Reddit history. They would ultimately backtrack, then front track again, and backtrack again, and slowly begin reintroducing pay-to-win mechanics as gamers moved on to other industry drama. So Blizzard is sitting here with IP and storylines worth billions of dollars. They're looking at their industry competitors and seeing fields of money being grown to the sounds of casino slot machines. How can they not dive in and try to steal a slice of that pie? Well, dive in they did, with Diablo Immortal and a moment that lives on in BlizzCon infamy. At 2018's BlizzCon, the development studio launched trailers, details, and announcements for the next installment in the Diablo franchise. They took a nuclear fusion's worth of hype and spun out a mobile game. During the Q&A, well, just watch.
The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
This off-the-cuff comment turned Blizzard into a walking meme and was fairly representative of the Diablo Immortal showcase and the direction that Blizzard was heading as a whole. Fast forward a few years and Diablo Immortal launched on iOS and Android in June of 2022. It dropped with massive amounts of pay to win. They didn't look at EA just for inspiration. They looked at EA and said, hold my fucking beer. Pay to win is a spectrum. There are many different forms of pay to win that impact the user's gameplay experience in different ways. On one side of pay to win, you may have skins in League of Legends that make character abilities easier or more difficult to see. This is probably pay to win at its softest form. You ramp up a little bit and we see skins in Call of Duty that make the player nearly invisible when hiding inside of rooms. This pay for invisibility certainly impacts multiplayer competitive integrity, but overall it's pretty cheap and it usually gets patched out relatively quickly or made free to the wider player base. Further up the spectrum are games like Battlefront 2 or FIFA Ultimate Team, where clear gameplay advantages can be accelerated by an exponential amount using real money. This is pretty far into the pay-to-win spectrum, as the non-paying users will be months or years behind the paying users in power level. But non-paying users can still access this power level given enough time. Diablo Immortal went well beyond any of this, making certain power levels literally impossible to obtain without paying hundreds and thousands of dollars. One streamer spent over $100 grand on Diablo Immortal only to be prevented from matchmaking because his power level was so far beyond everyone else's that the matchmaking system couldn't find a single match. He even sat in queue for 72 straight hours with no luck. This implies then that Diablo Immortal is infinitely pay to win. This is great if you're a money-hungry corporation, but for the community of gamers that had supported Blizzard over the years, this is a betrayal. So whose fault is this? Do we lay the blame at the feet of corporations or the gamers themselves who spend unfathomable amounts of money by choice? What about the laws of the countries that they operate in, who fail to keep up with modern practices and adopt the appropriate regulations? Games like Diablo Immortal, FIFA Ultimate Team, and Battlefront 2 prey on the human condition. They take years of psychological research and weaponize it, ratcheting our addiction centers against us. Their game is the addiction and your wallet is the drug that produces that endorphin-based relief. Others would argue that personal responsibility trumps free market economies. If people didn't spend money, then these games simply wouldn't exist. It's not like Diablo Immortal is tying you to a chair and stealing your credit card number. A third train of thought would place responsibility on the countries that allow this behavior to go unchecked and unregulated. These are the same types of psychological tricks that casinos use to lure us to the tables, but at least in casinos, they're checking your ID and following a strict set of regulations for who can and cannot play. None of these gambling-based gaming systems check your ID or require any kind of verification. This signals a growing trend in the gaming ecosystem towards pay to win. These companies have every incentive to test the waters and see how far they can push us gamers into handing over our hard-earned money for in-game cosmetics or advantages. They're playing dirty. So what do you think? Who's to blame here? Some, one, all of the aforementioned parties? Well, let me know in the comments, and we're going to continue to keep track of stories just like this one. Thank you all for joining me. If you like gaming content like this, hit the like, subscribe, and notification button. You can find me here on YouTube or in podcast form on Spotify. Thanks again. I'm Retro T, and I'll see you next time.